G'day everyone. Day 27 of the Dezi Freeman manhunt. And mate, this story just keeps getting more bizarre by the day. We've got fresh gun seizures, new raids in Myrtleford, and $1 million bounty that's got the whole country talking. But here's what's really got me scratching my head. They've deployed the Australian Defence Force, police from every state, even officers from New Zealand, and still nothing. Not a trace of this bloke. It's like he's vanished into thin air. Today, I'm bringing you all the latest updates on Australia's biggest manhunt. From the gun seizures at his wife's place to the latest raids, and some pretty wild theories floating around about what's really going on here. The Dezi Freeman manhunt has now entered its fourth week since the tragic shooting that claimed the lives of Senior Constable Vadim Dewat Hotat and Detective Leading Senior Constable Neil Thompson. And guys, this case has become unlike anything we've seen in Australian law enforcement history. Before we start, hit subscribe so you don't miss any updates on the Dezi Freeman case, including the unanswered questions about the poor punker shooting and the silence that still surrounds it. Let me paint you a picture of just how massive this operation has become. We're talking about the largest manhunt in Australian history, with resources that would make your head spin. The Australian Defence Force has joined Victoria Police in the search. That's military personnel, mate. When was the last time you saw the Army hunting for a civilian in Australia? Police from every single Australian state have been deployed to northeast Victoria. They've even got officers from New Zealand helping out. The search area covers hundreds of square kilometres of some of the most rugged bushland you can imagine around northeast Victoria. They're using specialised tracking units, aircraft, thermal imaging technology, and every piece of high-tech gear they can get their hands on. And here's the kicker. Victoria Police have put up a record $1 million reward for information leading to Freeman's capture. That's the biggest bounty in Victorian police history. When they're willing to fork out that kind of cash, you know they're desperate to find this bloke. Now here's where things get interesting. Police have been busy conducting raids across the region, and the Freeman family has been hit hard by the consequences of this whole mess. Multiple firearms were seized from Dezi Freeman's wife, Amalia Freeman. She's a licensed gun owner, and police visited properties associated with her, removing all the weapons following the August shooting. But here's what's crucial. Authorities have confirmed that none of these seized weapons were the guns used in the incident that killed the two police officers. Freeman's 15-year-old son was also arrested during raids on August the 29th. The whole family has been torn apart by this situation. They'd been living what locals describe as an alternative lifestyle, residing in a converted bus on rural property in Porepunkah. Just this past Friday, September 19th, heavily armed police swooped on another property in Myrtleford. This latest raid was conducted under a firearms prohibition order, with officers conducting thorough searches of the home. While no arrests were made during this operation, it shows just how wide a net police are casting in their search for Freeman. What's truly fascinating is how the community has responded to this manhunt. For some, the media coverage has turned Freeman into more than just a fugitive. He's become a kind of symbol. In criminology, this is sometimes called folk hero status. When a figure at odds with authority begins to attract admiration, even myth-making. On social media, the claims are endless. People insist they've spotted him everywhere, from Fiji to New Zealand. For some, it's almost like a game of hide and seek. But here's the real question. Are these just rumours feeding a legend? Or could Freeman actually be receiving shelter and support? Police say it's possible. But whether that's truth or just part of the myth remains uncertain. Freeman has been described as holding anti-government views that only grew stronger during the COVID-19 years. He aligned himself with the so-called sovereign citizen movement, rejecting authority and embracing conspiracy theories. In criminology, this is often seen as part of what's called resistance narratives. That's when someone reframes themselves not as a criminal, but as a fighter against an unjust system. So the deeper question is this: did the pandemic simply intensify beliefs he already carried? Or did it push him over the edge into something far more dangerous? And then, of course, there's the search itself. Some reports suggest it could last months, maybe half a year. But here's the challenge. Criminologists warn that once a fugitive becomes embedded in community networks, a manhunt can stretch on indefinitely. So perhaps the real question isn't when Freeman will be found, but whether the legend that now surrounds him is making the search harder than the man himself. But if the police truly want to bring Freeman in, then why are so many of the most basic details still being kept from the public? Why hasn't the full bodycam footage been released? The very footage that could either prove the officers acted by the book or reveal something far more troubling. And what about the so-called third officer? Why is his name still being withheld? And why did it take nearly an hour before he received medical attention? This is very intriguing. Doesn't that sound unusual? And then there's the question no one can seem to answer. How did Dezi Freeman, a man with no formal military training, manage to outmaneuver 7 armed and trained officers? Was it luck? Was it instinct? Or was there something else at play that night? Could Freeman have had help? Maybe even from someone on the inside. And if the police narrative is as solid as they claim, why are there still gaps in their own reports? Why are community members whispering about missing evidence, about inconsistencies, about details that never made it into the official story? The truth is, these questions aren't just about Dezi Freeman. They're about the system itself, about what happens when the silence of those in power grows louder than the voices demanding answers. Until those questions are faced head-on, the case of Dezi Freeman remains less a closed chapter, and more an unfinished riddle that refuses to be solved. As we head into week 5 of this manhunt, the pressure is building. The $1 million reward, the unprecedented resources, and the ongoing media attention all point to one thing. Authorities won't give up until Freeman is found. The search for Dezi Freeman continues across the rugged terrain of northeast Victoria. 3 families have been destroyed, a community remains on edge, and Australia's most intensive manhunt shows no signs of slowing down. Thank you for watching this video. I'll keep bringing you updates as this story develops. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any breaking news on this case.